So R12 is about home. So there's an imaginary area on the field named home. And I'm going to scroll down so we can see the picture. Home is here on the left. It is any of this blue space. So on the table, we have the mat, and then we have that empty space. All of the empty space is part of home. We also have this quarter circle here in the bottom corner of the mat. That is also part of home. So when we're talking about home, those are the two areas we're talking about. There's no ceiling, goes as high as you need it to. Now when we're inspecting, we have that 12 inches. But home, after inspection, no ceiling, goes as high as you need it to. It is where you put everything you need. So in the past, a couple years ago, you would bring a bucket maybe to hold all your stuff while you were waiting missions. You don't do that anymore. Everything goes in home. That's why we do inspection, to make sure everything fits comfortably in home. It's where you handle things. It's where you prepare the robot between launches. After any launch, the robot has to come back to home. Now, there's a couple of notes here I want to highlight. We see return completely. So looking back at the picture here, on the left picture, home, the robot has to be completely in home. That means, I'm going to toggle off the screen for a minute. If I'm using this EV3 brick, and the robot's right there, this is part of home, we are completely in home, we're good. We're up here. Let's do it that way, yeah. Completely in home, we're good. If I do this, completely in home, because I am on the line between this and the empty area, that's fine. They're both part of home. However, if I'm up there, I am on the mat and I'm in home, but I'm not in the safe area. That means you can't pick it up yet without incurring a loss of a precision token. But that is something we'll talk about later. So that's one important thing, is you have to be completely in home if you want to handle it without losing a precision token. You can return, so when the robot's coming back after a mission, anywhere in home, the empty area or that quarter circle, doesn't matter. And it can do that at any time during the match. There are rules that talk about how you can interact with things outside of home, so we'll talk about those in a future video. But there are a couple of exceptions. One is if something kind of rolls out, grab it quickly so it doesn't mess up the field. And if something breaks off the robot, you are allowed to pick that up. But that is equipment, not mission models. Keep that in mind. Remember, equipment is something you bring to the table, not a mission model. And this bullet point here, here at the end of home, is going to be very important for a couple of missions later. You cannot strategically send or extend anything, even partly outside of home, except by launching the robot. Keep that in mind. We're going to talk about it more in depth when we get to the mission that I think it applies to, but that's a very important bullet point for you to keep in mind. Last rule we have is the launch area. So the launch area is a part of home. It is that quarter circle here on the right picture. So we said the robot can return to home, and it has to return to home, but the robot can only leave from the launch area. That's why it's called the launch area. And it's the same way as home. No ceiling, so it's as high as you get to. And when you are ready to send your robot out, it has to fit completely in the launch area. Every time you launch it, it has to be in the launch area. So if I were to look back on my field with my EV3 brick, right now my brick fits totally in home, and if I had parts attached to the robot, every part of the robot would. So if I were to attach a motor to it, right? This is still in the launch area, we're good, I can send it out. But if I were to back it up to right here, I'm not totally in home. Some of the robot's hanging, or sorry, I'm not totally in the launch area. Some of the robot is hanging over. Right? Even if I were to do it backwards, this motor is hanging outside of the allowable launch area. I can't launch yet. If your robot is not completely in the launch area before you launch, the referees will stop you from launching until you get in that configuration. So if you built your robot too big for the launch area, that robot won't be allowed to launch. You will have to take things off of your robot until it fits. So every time you go to launch your robot, you need to make sure that the entire robot, as all of your equipment and anything it is carrying in this case, fits in the launch area. So you are limited to that size. So looking back at our rules, that covers the last of our preparation rules. These are probably some of the big ones. Rules 12 and 13 are really important for playing the game. I would make sure that you are super familiar with those. If you have questions, feel free to reach out, but that wraps up our preparation rules, and in the next video we're going to talk about our action rules. So we will see you in the next video.